Rage's voice was heard as the screen stayed black. There is a monster that cannot be satiated. There is a monster whose hunger knows no bounds, whose thirst for flesh runs endlessly. Rage spoke ominously as the screen brightened enough to see some figures moving, but not enough to identify the monster. Suddenly, the video cut to the forest, where a large yellow iguana-like creature, who gasped in excitement, believing it would be the topic monster of the video. "Not you," Rage said quickly, causing the monster to groan in disappointment. An eerie chill was now going down the spines of the audience, with the more timid clinging to their lovers and Ruby clinging to both Cinder and her mother. "It's DeViljo all over again," she said fearfully. "Oh, DeViljo wishes it was in this thing's league," Teko said with a smirk. "Not helping," Nora said shakily. However, this moment was soon ruined when Great Jagras appeared on the screen, causing everyone to facevault. "What is that?" Pyrrha asked, a bit dumbfounded. "A Great Jagras. They're also gluttons, but nowhere near as bad as DeViljo, and especially not the guy we're about to hear about," Razara said. "You guys keep making it sound like he's worse than DeViljo, and I really don't like that," Ilya said nervously. "And they're probably underselling it, like Rage normally does," Adam said suspiciously. "Gold star, Adam. Great job," Katana praised. The screen went black once again as Rage continued. "There is a monster that can reduce the entire ecosystem around it to a graveyard of decaying flesh. And that monster is DeViljo," Rage said calmly as the screen started to show things beyond the darkness once again. Suddenly, however, Rage was heard, sounding much farther away, but for good reason. "And then there's the monster that eats DeViljo for a light snack if he's peckish," Rage cried out as the screen went dark once again. Once again, they were getting into the build-up, only for DeViljo to be shown. Despite the build-up not leading to anything again, many of the group couldn't help but laugh. "He's really milking this fake-out stuff, isn't he?" Roman asked with a chuckle. "Repetition is the foundation of humor," Neo declared. "No, it's the definition of annoying," Weiss groaned. "Really? I thought that was you," Yang teased, causing steam to shoot from Weiss' ears. Then came the remark that this creature eats DeViljo. "He eats DeViljo. The World Eater," John said fearfully. "And just for being a bit peckish? That must make it insanely powerful if DeViljo isn't a last resort meal," Ren said in shock. "And we still have no idea what it is or how it does something so insane yet," Penny said worriedly. "Oh, it's time to dash." Rage began once again. Suddenly, it cut to a man in brilliant, glistening silver armor. "Release the Kraken," the man ordered, before the screen darkened again. "What's a Kraken exactly? Just sounds like something's broken." "Hey, there's a crack in that vase," Coco said while filing her nails. "Yeah, she's usually been too busy checking our fashion magazines to look into mythology. It's a giant squid or octopus that can rip apart entire ships and eat people in one bite if it's merciful and doesn't leave them to drown at sea," Emerald said. "Whoa. That's pretty metal," Coco said. "You know, I'm kind of surprised Salem hasn't made a Grimm like that yet," Cinder said. "That you know of," Hazel pointed out. Now, several bubbles were shown rising up and it was clear the view was one from underwater. The oceans of our world are vast, stretching across the horizon in glistening, brilliant blue. But beneath the surface, deep down, oh so deep down, where light can no longer penetrate, where darkness, cold and pressure form an oppressive triumvirate, there are creatures dwelling in the depths. Gargantuan, terrifying beasts that defy creation and defy all sense of reality. Rage spoke ominously as a hideous and terrifying angler fish with its glowing lure was shown as it swam through the darkness. And despite being animal lovers, both RWBY and Velvet were terrified of the aquatic life on screen. "They're so creepy. It's literally like something from someone's nightmares," Velvet cried out, clinging to Coco for dear life. "Miss Belladonna, didn't you state that each part of an angler fish tastes different?" Glinda asked, intrigued by the idea of collecting a couple with her abyssal Lagiacris. Blake gulped a bit, still creeped out by the sight of the fish, but answered anyway. "Why yes, ma'am. You can eat basically everything except the head and the bones. It's categorized into 7 parts: fins, skin, gills, liver, stomach, ovaries, and meat. The liver is usually everyone's favorite part, but the tail is a close tie because it tastes like lobster. But they're so big and slimy, you have to hang them from a hook to cut them up," she explained, trying to avoid looking at the screen and think of the dishes made from the fish, rather than the fish itself. "Wow, Blake. You really know a lot about this stuff." Summer praised her daughter's teammate. Blake smiled and blushed at Summer's compliment. Thank you, ma'am." Another menacing-looking fish was shown, this time with its lure in its mouth. These Cthulhu spawn oft keep to themselves and out of the way, but sometimes, one of the worst of them all cannot satiate his endless hunger, and he comes a-searching and he comes to the surface. Finding an underwater cave entrance, he will pull his gargantuan, yet malleable body inside, slither along its tunnels and emerge in a pool in a cavern, a new cave to call home to make his den. He'll wander to its mouth, equally at home on the land as in the sea, and survey his new empire. No life is safe, no creature will be spared, for all will come to know the belly of the beast. Rage spoke ominously as several more anglers were shown. "It can go on both land and sea? That may make it almost more dangerous than any Grimm. Only Leviathans are capable of something like that," Winter said in horror. "And the whole no life will be spared thing isn't putting anyone's mind at ease," Crow stated, everyone nodding in agreement. This visual of horrifying sea life finally ended, but what replaced it wasn't much better: a palico in a cave where the floor was absolutely covered in bones. The Wyvern's end, his nest is known as, and for good reason. It is lined in grim macabre with the bones of his victims. From skulls to shoulder blades and kneecaps and toe bones, the entire floor, wall and ceiling is a ghastly monument to his gluttony. Glowing softly in beautiful bioluminescence, one does not wander in here and make it out alive. The crunch underfoot, the last sound you will ever hear, barring the crunch of your own bones as you meet your fate. So, what creature, a true apex predator, has the capacity to hunt in such volume to quite literally live on a bed of bones? Introducing Nakarkos. Rage finally spoke the name of the beast as he looked down to see a gigantic, seemingly two-headed creature with some kind of bone-covered body. This certainly didn't ease anyone's sense of dread. In fact, it may have doubled it. Floor. See covered in bee bones, John said fearfully. Once again, I never thought I'd find something more depraved than Salem, but here we are, Ashvin said in horror. To literally cover the entire floor of its cave home in bones, it must kill on an unfathomable level. You'd have to take every body buried in a cemetery to even come close to that level of bones, Ironwood said. Even if these monsters are dozens of times bigger than a human, there has to be hundreds of corpses there for that many bones to be lying around, Penny said fearfully, holding Weiss close. And then they saw the creature. It has 2 heads. Neo cried out in fear. No way. I don't care how weird your universe is, there's no way a monster has 2 heads. It can't happen. Weiss screamed. Actually, there have been reports of 2-headed snakes that have lived for 20 years. Emerald said, leaving everyone horrified, as that meant this thing could truly be a possibility. But Rage mentioned something about the Kraken. There has to be more to it than what we're seeing. Cinder reminded them. A group of hunters was then seen fighting the beast. This monster swims through bones like other monsters do water or sand. He is such an unstoppable hunting, devouring force that he can clear his entire environment with such a speed to instantly turn his new home into a SEA of bones. I mean, if that's not a good starting point for something badass, I don't know what is. It also admittedly doesn't hurt his case that you can essentially describe him with one word. Rage said as the hunters continued to fight the mighty beast while the camera focused on one of its heads as a choir sang about tentacles. As horrifying as this was, they couldn't help but agree with the host's statement. I mean, he's not wrong. Coco, you said the regular Kraken was metal, then this thing must be made out of Captain America's shield with how metal it is. Yang admitted. Okay, yeah. This thing is definitely not boring or goofy. I'm with you on that one, Bun Bun. The fashionista said, holding on to Velvet, who hid her face in Coco's shoulder. The two heads of the beast rose into the air as the creature became enraged and was becoming more mobile. Nakarkos then is a monstrous cephalopod. Your cuttlefish, your squid, your octopi and cephalopods are amazing. They are insanely intelligent, the most intelligent of the invertebrates, some capable of solving problems. Nakarkos himself is devilishly clever. He is an elder dragon after all, though technically classified as one because the researchers were like, the fuck's this? Where do we what the what? I don't know, elder dragon? Elder dragon, right? I mean, it's literally eating us, Tim. Elder dragon. I'm pretty sure that's how it went down. Rage explained what Nakarkos truly was and its classification while the two heads began to dig at the ground. To say they were shocked at the reveal was quite the surprise. Those were just tentacles? Ilya asked in disbelief. Now the Kraken stuff makes sense, then, if it's a cephalopod. Adam admitted. I've seen enough of that hentai stuff to know where this is going. Roman said uncomfortably. Katana and her daughters were genuinely caught off guard by this. You'll be happy to know it's not going there. Katana said. Neo smacked Roman's arm for that one. A smart opponent is a dangerous one. So just how clever can it be? Hazel wondered. I'm more curious to why it's called an elder dragon. It's totally not a dragon. Nora said, from her spot on her Kieran's back. Nora, you remember that Sigrun is an elder dragon even though she's a unicorn, right? Velvet pointed out. Oh, yeah. Nora realized. Yeah, honestly? I think the guild is just lazy at this point and doesn't want to make any new classifications, so if it's too weird to fit into one of the categories we already have, it's just an elder dragon. Teko said. It's meant to be a category for creatures that don't fit into any other established category that has insane, world-threatening power. Rizara corrected, smacking her sister in the back of the head, which earned her a tug on the ear from her mother. Nakarkos continued to fight the felines that assaulted it. Cephalopods have a bag of tricks so deep that Mary Poppins get jealous, some of them then able to change the color of their skin, the texture, and even their shape to perfectly blend into the environment. Some cuttlefish can generate a light show rippling down their skin with masterful control. This can hypnotize prey into just sitting there and accepting their fate. Rage described the abilities of normal cephalopods as a cuttlefish was shown changing its color and looking more like a bit of coral, then several others were shown rapidly changing colors in a way to look like a flashing light show. The intellectuals and animal lovers will the cuttlefish footage. I always have found the abilities and intelligence of cephalopods impressive. Some of them have even been known to be able to open jars, even if they've been trapped inside the jar. Winter said. They are truly amazing creatures. Their numerous adaptations and hunting tactics and strategies are incredible. They can even use weapons and partner with fish to hunt together. They're creatures we could certainly learn from. Glinda agreed. Indeed. And they're one of the few other animals, besides ourselves, capable of using a smoke screen with their ink. Ren added. I've always found that very fascinating. Pyrrha said. Then, the creatures put on their light shows, and Nora and RWBY were completely mesmerized by the display. Boo-hoo, pretty. Nora said, almost in a trance. That's so cool. And changing their shape and texture is really awesome. I wish I could do that. RWBY cried out with stars in her eyes. The felines must have managed to deal some decent damage to Nakarkos, as it stopped moving and the two tentacles acting as heads collapsed. Nakarkos then has one hell of a repertoire of tricks himself. He is a big fan of pigment change too, with a little bit of bioluminescence, as you'll see throughout the fight. Rage explained as the underside of Nakarkos' bone helmet was flashing several different colors. Deep blue skin, he is really quite a pretty creature. In a kind of, well, also known as corpse dragon, bone-wearing way. He will put the skulls of other animals on the tips of his tentacles so people think that they're his heads, and it's why he was first thought to be two-headed. That's quite the little strategy. In fact, it's incredibly rare to even see his face. You have to force him into a life-threatening situation to get him to reveal himself. He told the audience before Nakarkos woke up and began to thrash about, sending bones flying everywhere. That's actually really smart. Creepy, but smart. I know a few different animals that have something like that. If you can't tell which end is the head and guess wrong, then the right end has a chance of making you pay for that bad guess. Blake said. Except I'm guessing those other animals don't use the skulls of others to do that. Crow guessed. Well, duh. How many other animals carry around skulls? The cat-eared girl asked. As far as we've seen, just the carapacians. John noted. And there's 3 of them, more if you count the subspecies, so clearly, it's an effective strategy. Ironwood said. If an incredibly morbid one. Ashbin added. Nakarkos then began to shoot around large globs of a strange blue substance. Now he sits high on the food chain in the ocean, with no known predators except the Cedius, a huge, whale-like creature, so the whale eating the big squid, it makes sense. But on land, he's essentially unchallenged. You have to get to almost Vitali's level before he finds a proper, let's say, fight, because Nakarkos is not really too into fighting. He's more into dominating, because his hunting adaptations and strategy is as near perfect as you could want. His secret weapon is the ability to produce great gouts of sticky, blue mucus. This is his entire shtick. It's like sticky, like his shtick is sticky. Rage elaborated on Nakarkos' place on the food chain and its signature ability before ending with a joke, which was rewarded with a slow, sarcastic clap from a group of scholarly-looking gentlemen. I get it. That's funny. RWBY giggled. It broke down a bit when he explained it, but it wasn't bad. Neo agreed. It's got nothing on my puns, but it did get a giggle out of me. Yang added. And honestly, that stuff would probably be fun to play in. RWBY said. RWBY, it's mucus. Historically, not a pleasant substance. Penny told her. Only when it's warm and green, but that's cool and blue. Yang countered. I want to try. Nora cried out. No, you don't. The rest of her team said. Nakarkos continued to spew out this mucus, trying to hit or slow down the felines. So, in the very rare occasions where a Nakarkos will come on land and build a wyvern's end nest, He will use this to deadly effect. He will roam fair afield, looking for any life to consume. You see, his hunger is paramount. He looks at Devildo's unstoppable thirst for flesh and he goes, "That's cute," and he consumes all with his mouth straight from hell. Rage declared, showing a hunter who was either incredibly brave or stupid, standing right in front of its terrifying mouth, filled with spike-like teeth as it let out a deep and terrifying roar. A lot of the teens, as well as Summer, freaked out at the sudden close-up of its fucked-up mouth. "Oh, my God. It's horrifying." Summer cried out, pulling her daughters and their crushes protectively close to herself, practically crushing the four of them in the process. "Mom. You're squishing us." Jan groaned. "I appreciate the concern, Mrs. Rose, but please let go." Cinder pleaded, her face dangerously close to Summer's armpit. "Yang's already crushed me enough with her hugs." Neo complained. "Why did he have to show us a close-up?" Weiss shrieked. "It's been a while since I had a nightmare. Something tells me I will tonight." Hazel said, horrified by the creature's maw. The hunter continued to stare at the nightmare-inducing maw as another hunter ran up and attacked the side of the mouth. "Look at that thing. A sharp beak like an octopus that can tear into flesh effortlessly, fleshy appendages down his gullet and just ugh. Imagine climbing in there, I can't ugh. No." Rage went off on a tangent, shuddering at horror at the creature's mouth. And he does not stop. He essentially lives by the words. Rage continued, before cutting away to a muscular soldier in the forest. The soldier was looking back at his off-screen men. "If it bleeds, we can kill it." He spoke in a unique accent as a tentacle rose up onto the screen. I recall a similar line from that carnivore movie John requested we see. It was certainly an entertaining movie. Pyrrha said with fond memories. But then the tentacles ruin it. Blake said, shuddering a bit. "I'm so glad there weren't any white fan member with tentacles." Ilias said. "There was one, but he got those tentacles a little too close to Sienna. I'm told they just barely grew back." Adam told them. It then returned to the felines fighting the cephalopod. "And he will eat many ecosystems into extinction, leaving the one closest to his nest for last, allowing food to thrive by his door for as long as possible." So, why is this mucus so effective? Why does it let him completely dominate and eat the likes of Glavenus, Mr. Flameblade Tail? Things like Diablos and Rat Halos, even Shingao Ren, a crab as tall as mountains. There is very little he cannot easily snatch and devour. Well, you know those Velcro suits you can wear and throw yourself at a Velcro wall? Rage asked, showing a clip of a child in a Velcro suit with Glavenus' head superimposed on his own being placed against a Velcro wall by an adult with one of Nakarkos' false heads superimposed over his own head, the boy sticking to the wall. John hugged Guillotine closely at the mention of Nakarkos eating members of the species. "I won't let him get you, buddy." Then the Velcro suits were mentioned. "That looks like fun," Ruby said. "I want to stick to walls, too," Nora said excitedly. "Okay, I gotta admit, even I want to try that." Neo agreed. "I'm gonna look for places where we can do that as soon as we get back to Vale." John said. "Yeah. We'll make a whole Velcro wall day." Yang cheered. "That actually sounds fun." Velvet admitted. "I mean, the suits look super tacky, but if you want to try it, I'm in." Coco told her Bun Bun. It then returned to the fight against the beast. Well, when Nakarkos covers you in this blue goo, you are essentially wearing a Velcro suit and the entire environment around you is now the wall. You brush against a tree? You're stuck. You take a step, your foot is now fastened to the floor. He slowly wraps his tentacles around you, also covered in the sticky goo, very similar to how a cuttlefish hunts, actually, and he will drag you back to his nest. He will then eat you alive and you can't even scream because the mucus has more than likely essentially sealed your jaw shut. So, doesn't that just sound like a barrel of laughs? Rage asked jokingly as the felines appeared to have stunned Nakarkos again. That excitement was replaced with dread at the thought of being unable to move as Nakarkos drags them away. I hope my rocket boosters would be sufficient to free me from whatever I was stuck to. And that's if it doesn't glue my components together. Penny said fearfully. I probably couldn't even escape with my semblance. Blake said fearfully. I doubt any of us could unless the mucus can be burned away. Cinder told her, hoping that it could indeed be burned away so she could escape if she encountered one. And that mucus probably tastes horrible. I don't want that to be my last taste before I'm eaten alive. Nora cried out. Although still filled with dread, Emerald leaned closer to Ren. Imagine how much more peaceful our lives would be if Mercury and Nora's mouths were glued shut. She whispered before giggling. And even though he loved Nora, he couldn't deny she had a point. How could that possibly be anything remotely close to being considered a barrel of laughs? Winter demanded. He's an idiot. Adam scoffed. Forget that. He's completely insane. Ilya cried out. I, too, am highly concerned for Rage's sanity and grasp on reality. Glinda said. Honestly? We all are. Rosara told them. The hunters and palicos were going to town on the downed cephalopod. But it doesn't stop there. You see, Nakarkos' body is actually very weak. It's squishy, as you would expect from a hugely deep-sea, squid-like creature. But he has a solution for this, because his mucus essentially tempers bone, prevents corrosion, keeps them together. He creates this grim artistry across his body, fastening himself a bone suit of armor that protects him from all would-be aggressors. Leading to his tentacles then, that feature the skulls of his prey atop them. And this isn't a clever strategy to throw off. Well, everything. No, Nakarkos learns, Nakarkos can mimic. So Nakarkos one day came across an Uragan and went high, and Uragan was like. Rage began to tell of Nakarkos' brilliant strategy as the beast awoke and thrashed around. And Uragan was then seen rolling in the Elder's recess, before rolling up a ramp and into the air, uncurling from its ball form to its normal state as triumphant music played. Here comes the Crimson Chin. A voice sang equally as triumphant as the music. Back to the fight once again. And Nakarkos was like, damn. You annoying and ugly. Nom, but, after eating him, he was like, dash Rage, continued his story, before a light bulb was shown on screen, which then turned on with a ding sound to symbolize Nakarkos must have had an idea. The chin of an Uragan, this powerful jaw. It can crack into ground, tearing bone and rock asunder alike. If I attach an Uragan jaw to the end of my tentacle, I now have a slam-wide chin bone I can use in combat. That's what I'm gonna do. And indeed, during the fight, Nakarkos will switch to an Uragan chin tentacle and come battering at you with it with earthquake-inducing blows to the ground. But that's not all. He can also include a glavenous tail on the end of his tentacle, that burning sword. He can use the part of a Lagiacris that lets it channel thunder in order to shock his enemies, and lastly also, the pounder of a Brachydios, letting him cause explosions. How impressive is Nakarkos? Rage asked as the creature began to fight and trash violently, before being restrained with binders. I'm not a fan of its gluttonous behavior, but I have to admit, its intelligence to know how to use the bones littering its home as armor impressive. Ashbin noted. And it's picked out a weapon for nearly every occasion, from the sound of things. That may make it the most effective predator we've seen so far. Glinda said, shocked. So it pretty much has the weapon of every monster at once? That is amazing. Ruby cheered. And it's learned to perfectly mimic and use their weapons in combat must mean it's seen these weapons used enough to figure out their full effectiveness. That is certainly intelligence you don't often see. Ironwood agreed. It's got a good taste in weapons, too, if it's using Brocky's head crest to make explosions. Yang said with a grin. The beast freed itself and continued to fight. A predator with such size, speed and special weaponry that lets it crawl onto land as a primarily sea creature, devour everything for miles around with one of the most potent weapons ever seen and the intelligence to mimic the monsters at each unique abilities by attaching their deceased bones to the ends of its tentacles and flailing them around in a dance of destruction. Like Dash. Rage spoke excitedly and laughing as the creature began pulling out all its tricks and attacking with the previously mentioned bones. His sticky blue mucus then is one of the biggest threats of the fight. He can apply it to hunters and then you are covered in this deep blue. If you roll while it is on you, you will get covered in the bones on the floor as the adhesate themselves all over your body, preventing you from moving or really doing much of anything as you become bone-blighted, so that's pretty damn awesome. Rage laughed again as a hunter was indeed coated in the blue mucus and was knocked to the ground, getting covered in bones. Oh, God, that's disgusting. It's already bad enough it's a hentai monster that can attack with all the dangerous parts of the most dangerous normal monsters, but it also makes you get covered in nasty, probably rotting bones. No thank you. Weiss cried out, shivering at the idea. I don't even think the hound was that adaptive. And anything that's more of a monster than that thing isn't to be trifled with. Hazel said. I would most certainly stay in the air if I were to combat such a beast. Penny said. No, I wish we could all fly like you, Penny. Blake said fearfully. It would still be able to get you. Katana told them. Everyone was shocked at what the hostess just said. Excuse me, what? Crow questioned in disbelief. Oh, just watch. Katana said simply, her daughters giggling as the group were left in suspense. It continued to use its stolen weaponry in an attempt to drive off its attackers. And it puts the guild into a state of emergency whenever a Nakarkos is sighted in the area. All is ground to a halt and the very best hunters from all around are called to put it down. Very often, most of these hunters, despite their skill, experience, and fame are never seen from again. And the thing is, Nakarkos isn't like Deviljo in terms of, hunger. Must feed. So hungry. No, it just really fucking likes food. It's just a greedy bastard, it just enjoys eating, so it doesn't stop. It's why it does have the self-control to allow the immediate area to still flourish, so it has a living larder, but it just really likes a good bit of chowing down, and I kind of like that, that's its main driving force. Rage laughed once again as a very large man was briefly shown and Nakarkos was letting out some blue and black mist as it fought. The group was shocked at this, but that shock soon gave way to anger. Are you kidding me? It simply gorges itself, because it likes to? All that loss of life, because it's just a glutton. At least Deviljo has to constantly feed. Winter said angrily. Not to mention, it should understand what it's doing. At least Kulu seemed to be clueless about the damage it was causing. Pyrrha said. They admit it. Ren cried out. But I wonder if elder dragons are capable of understanding things like overeating and depleting the resources of the ecosystem? Delvet wondered. Maybe it can't help it. I mean, food just tastes so good. Especially Ren's pancakes. Nora defended the creature's actions, understanding just wanting to eat whenever she wanted. Maybe, but to such an unsustainable level is unacceptable. Summer told her daughter. Nakarkos was once again stunned and the feline ran onto its back plate to plant a bomb on the beast. But we've not really heard the end of this tale, cause there's another reason the Hunters Guild is so deathly afraid of the Nakarkos, not just because of massive ecological imbalance. You see, Nakarkos has an uncanny dragon element, like a lot of elder dragons do, but he has it produced in spades within his body, such that he can fire it in huge blasting beams from his tentacles and, indeed, his mouth for his signature most powerful attack that he fires essentially a cannon of pure energy, decimating and disintegrating all in his path. He starts charging this when pushed far, when he gets angry, when the soft, teal glow turns a stark crimson and red electricity crackles throughout his body, his head raising up from being sunk into his bony home, he will stop at nothing to annihilate these would-be invaders. Rage advised about Nakarkos' deadliest ability as, indeed, black mist and red electricity emanated from the beast. They were all left in awe by the massive beam. Whoa! That's awesome! And so pretty! Ruby cried out. The energy output must be absolutely immense. I doubt even my lasers can compare. Penny said in amazement. That would probably vaporize Salem. She'd be gone for a few hours at least. Hazel said in awe. It'd be one hell of a last sight to behold. Roman added. That is one badass squid. Definitely one of the few things I'd actually call a monster. Emerald said. As Rage had said, the creature began to fire out giant beams of red energy from its tentacles. And this is not just a powerful weapon. It's essentially a natural, orbital defense cannon. Because what Nakarkos will do, the crafty son of a bitch, is see airships flying overhead, filled with plump, ripe humans, and it's like, ooh, I could go for some of those right now. I know I just ate a glavinus, but ugh. It's treat day. It will aim its dragon beam into the sky and cleave the airship in half, sending it crashing down to the ground, and then will go collect its tasty reward. Is that not quite terrifying? Nakarkos thinks. Nakarkos understands, and Nakarkos will not be stopped. The host said ominously as Nakarkos fired a beam into the air that indeed almost came down on the feline like an orbital laser. That all turned to horror as they were deeply disturbed at hearing it use this attack on airships. But none are more unsettled by this than the adults. To not only understand people are on the airship, but also how to get them. This creature's intelligence absolutely cannot be underestimated. Ashvin said in shock. To be able to reach so far and have the power to bring down ships. What can possibly stop it? Glinda asked, horrified. It's still a monster. An animal. With the right amount of hunters, good teamwork and the right strategies, the beast can be brought down. Teko said, one of the demons finally giving the crew hope. Still, kind of hard to believe with all that killing and eating it's not all that aggressive or malicious. I was starting to think it's the most evil thing we've seen so far. Crow said. It most definitely isn't. And there are definitely things still to come that are far more evil. Rizara warned them ominously. Oh, come on. Why does he keep bringing up Glavinus? John cried, hugging his monster again, holding on despite the beast lifting its head into the air in an attempt to make him lose his grip. James was especially unnerved by Nakarkos shooting down airships. This creature absolutely cannot be allowed on Remnant. Far too many of my soldiers and troops travel by air. Countless numbers of them could be fired down by that cuttlefish. Not to mention, it could be smart enough to puncture holes in my sea ships so that they could sink, and by the time the soldiers realized the ship's filling with water, it would be too late. Then it could make a full-on assault and tear it apart and make my men fall in the water before they could fly off on bullheads. The general went into full-on paranoia mode at the thought of what the beast could do to his ships and the men on them. Easy, General. You're getting paranoid again. Summer warned him. In this case, I think he has a right to. Neo said, hiding behind her umbrella. After hearing Ironwood's scenario of how Nakarkos could sink his ships at sea, Katana couldn't help but screw with him. "Did you have something like this in mind, James?" she asked, playing the clip of Pirates of the Caribbean 2 where the Kraken sank that ship, breaking it in half and the crew falling and screaming into its open maw. "Nope. Never. Never traveling by sea again," Velvet cried out. "That is so not fair. I have to go on a boat to go home to Menagerie. But now, I never want to go on a boat again," Blake said, trying to jump behind the couch to hide, but was held in place by Emerald. "I don't even think I'll go to the beach anymore," Neo said. "I'm only ever getting on the strongest boats on Remnant." Ruby agreed. Nakarkos was knocked down and the feline got onto the beast's back again and placed a bomb larger than the feline itself next to a strange crow-like organ, seriously damaging it, at which point the area ominously darkened and began to glow blue. He is then, as you could imagine, a superb swimmer. He can fire jets of water to get around pretty quickly. He'll burrow under the ground into his bony pile and come bursting up for surprise attacks. He's not actually that in control of his dragon element, it's very unstable, which is why it comes blasting out in such large beams. In fact, it's so unstable, it can damage himself, especially the huge mouth beam. It's a very much last resort type move. They're incredibly lone animals, only really needing another of its kind in order to breed. Rage explained as the fight continued and the beast attacked relentlessly as it also glowed blue with bright red spots along its tentacles. Everyone got an eerie chill when the area went dark, but also felt mystified by the blue glow. "It's terrifying, but, somehow, beautiful," Emerald said. "It almost feels peaceful in some strange way. I almost feel inspired to write a song about this," Weiss admitted. "And Nakarkos doesn't look bad either. The bright red and glowing blue. They contrast each other, but complement each other at the same time. Not bad," Coco noted. "You know, there's actually a dye that makes your clothes change color like Nakarkos," Rosara told them. Coco and Neo were amazed at this. "Really? How? Where do we get it? We could make bank with that. It's basically Nakarkos blood. Teko told them in sing-song. Everyone was shocked and horrified at this, the girls instantly dropping the idea. However, I'd wear it," Nora said, everyone looking at her like she grew a second head. "What? That would be so awesome. And it'd go perfect with my Grimbone armor," she cheered. "Nora, no," Ren insisted. "Nora, yes," she cried out. The creature began to fire its lasers once again. And what I do like about them, which compounds with that they're just greedy, they're not really that aggressive. They want to hunt constantly, sure, because, you know, they like eating, but there's no real malice, there's no evil in the eyes, there's no all before me must die savagery that a lot of the more powerful monsters tend to possess. He's just so unchallenged and knows what he wants from his life, that damn him. He's a strong, independent squid monster and he's beautiful. So that's Nakarkos, then. A two-headed, undead dragon that was revealed to be a giant squid with such an effective hunting method that he can eat an entire ecosystem and then some to extinction, because he's a greedy sod, with the power to shoot dragon lasers so intense that he can cut down airships from the sky on a bad day. Oh, Nakarkos. Oh yeah, and of course, nicking other monsters' abilities by attaching their bones to his tentacles. Yeah. Not bad. Rage finished as the beast fired a final laser at the roof before falling dead. Not bad at all, Yang said. Disagreed. The Atlesians, Penny and Velvet all cried out. Yeah, I don't think that's a monster we want running or swimming around on Remnant. John agreed. I'd like to see its laser in real life just once, though. Ruby said. And it would probably be the last thing you ever see. Cinder told her, holding her protectively. Thoughts? All three demon hostesses asked the rest of the group. It's kind of creepy, and I don't like that it attacks airships because it's just a greedy pig. But at the same time, it's really awesome. I love how cool it is. Its lasers are like pew, pew. And its tentacles are like glavinous slice. Uragon smash. Brocky boom. It's like a secret final boss. So OP, but so epic. Ruby cried. Its intelligence is quite fascinating, but far more terrifying. Ashvin said. It is certainly one of the most interesting monsters, but one I would prefer to see only on a screen. Glinda agreed. And I never want to see that mouth again. Summer said, shivering. Agreed. Everyone said. So, next is another tentacled monstrosity? Cinder asked. Yes. Katana confirmed. And there's absolutely nothing we can say to make you change your mind? Winter asked hopefully. No. The hostess denied. Is it at least less nightmare-inducing than Nakarkos? Weiss asked. It could definitely give you nightmares, I guess. But you'll be happy to know the scariest thing about Yamatsukami is its size. Katana said, playing the video.